Hey guys, Talking Dave over here, the dorky talking black guy that's just trying to get by, and welcome to another edition of AA, Adaptation Application. Here, I share my thoughts on how well an original or an already established story has been adapted into a new or an updated medium. This adaptation application is in conjunction with Thank You for Giving, my Thanksgiving celebration on where I focus on an individual's contributions to the entertainment industry. So now here I am going to state or give my thoughts on how well Tobe Hooper actually adapted Stephen King's novel into his miniseries or movie, whichever you want to call it. Warning, spoiler warning. In my initial review, I did not go into spoiler territory. With this AA, I will be giving spoilers on both the novel and this miniseries. So if you don't want anything spoiled or anything, read the book and watch the miniseries before you cover this or watch this, all right? You have been warned, okay? So, like always, I am going to focus on 3 key elements, of an adaptation. How well the story was adapted, how well they, tackled the themes, and how well the characters were portrayed. All right. So the movie or TV series, whichever you want to call it, TV miniseries, whichever you like to call it, basically revolves around author Ben Mears, who actually returns to his childhood home, a small town in Maine called Salem's Lot. At the same time, two other people come into Salem's Lot. One named Richard Stryker and someone named Kurt Barlow, whom Kurt himself is actually a vampire and is actually basically targeting the people of Salem's Lot and turning them into vampires, Now, that's how they portray it in the movie. In the novel, it's pretty much the same thing. However, you get an additional backstory on Mears' motivation, which they do touch upon in the miniseries, but the book does give more in-depth and more character motivation, So, while I personally feel, while I could be nitpicky and say, we didn't get Mears' motivation more so, it was mentioned later on. It was mentioned in the miniseries, which I will get to when I talk about the characters. So, with that case, I'm going to give the story adaptation a pass. All right? Now, everyone has interpretations of a theme in the book. Some are obviously out there, and some are pretty much hidden. Salem's Lot actually had a hidden theme not many people actually grasped and everything. And I actually tried to explain this to basically some people, and I even sent Stephen King himself a tweet if he saw this theme, and he never got back to me. So, so this is just my impression, but, the overarching theme of Salem's Lot is temptation, See, the thing is, basically, everybody in the town, is tempted by something. Whether it be basically, tempted by ego, tempted by fear or a tragic event, tempted by basically glitz and glam, tempted by basically, lust and all. And you got all these elements within the novelization, In the miniseries, you really didn't touch upon all that as much. The biggest temptation that we actually saw in the miniseries / movie was basically the cheating wife that was in the TV, that was in the miniseries or movie, whichever you like to call it, you know. But, you know, in the novel, they go into more detail about basically, for example, why Susan, you know, Ben's love interest in the novel, you know, why she actually preferred Ben over her boyfriend at that time, Ned Leeds, you know. In the miniseries or movie, you know, they established that basically Susan broke up with Ned, where in the novel, they were like, you know, off and on, and then Susan actually dumped him and everything for Ben, because Ben was like, you know, very cosmopolitan, not of the town, you know. He had this handsome city guy look to him and everything, which she found intriguing, you know. An example like that, you know. So I have to say that, you know, Hooper, like, you know, missed on this, so I gotta give him a fail, you know. All right, here's the Grand Poobah, the characters. Wow, there were a lot of characters in the novelization, you know. And while this was basically, you know, a TV miniseries and all, you know, let's face it, even for a miniseries, going through these characters, that would have been a task. So Tobe Hooper did something very smart, which I believe is very smart. He combined a lot of the characters together. For example, in the novel, you actually had Susan's father and all, and a young doctor. You know, in the miniseries or movie, they combined those two characters together, and it kept the miniseries and, you know, movie going more. They also had, basically, in the novel, they actually had what I talked about, the cheating wife. The cheating wife was actually, like, you know, infatuated with a younger man, right? And however, she was also working for her boss at the same time, and they were two different people. In this movie or miniseries, they combined those two characters, you know. So I felt that was a very effective move. On the flip side, however, there were some characters that played a very important role in the novel that they did not do in the movie or the TV miniseries. For example, you know, I forgot the character's name, but in the TV series or movie, there was a teacher that basically Ben spent a lot of time with, because this was the person that motivated him to be a writer, you know. That person actually ended up being the Van Helsing character of Salem's Lot, you know, the one that knew more about the vampires, you know, knew their weaknesses, knew their strengths and everything. He was the one that, you know, put in the research and everything, and was able to instruct everybody how to fight the vampires. In addition, you know, you had the priest, Father Callahan, whom actually had a really small role in the movie or miniseries, but he was actually a very important character, not only in this novel, but apparently he returned in other novels, which, you know, I have not read, because I have not read all of Stephen King's novels. I read his earlier work, you know. And basically, that was actually a very pivotal character, and a bit of a undertone of man against the devil and everything, which is a trope of Stephen King, right? So I have to say that was very unpleasing. Now, with a lot of our leads and everything, I have to say that basically, you know, they put good people to play some of our leads, like, you know, Dave Shaw as Ben Mears. You know, I actually thought he was perfect as Ben Mears. I actually think Bonnie Bonilla, you know, Holly Gennaro, man, she was gorgeous back in the day and everything. Excellent for Susan, you know, very highly attractive, like, you know, town girl and everything that could drive guys crazy, you know. Mark, the leading kid and everything, and one of the survivors. You got his fascination, of like, supernatural stuff pretty down packed. But he had additional development, which unfortunately Tobe Hooper did not get a chance to go into. And it was a bit of a smart move. Plus, he made up for it by making Mark a badass, So, I gotta give this a low pass on that and everything. So, one thing that I noticed in the movie or the miniseries was a lot of dialogue didn't match up with the scenes very well, and that was because you'd have to read the book. Particularly, there was one scene that really felt out of place, which is where Barlow kills Mark's family and everything. That appeared a bit random and a bit high profile for Barlow, and the reason why is because in the novel, this was after Mark killed one of his vampires, and he was pissed off, so he went back to kill off Mark's family with a vengeance. So they could have done a little bit better with matching the dialogue and some of the scenes a little bit better. However, with all that said, basically, they did a great job adapting the story. They missed the theme, but they were very mixed on the characters. So, for this adaptation application, of Stephen King's Salem's Lot, it did its thing. Agree? Disagree? Drop me a comment below. Give me a like. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter. And subscribe and ring that bell so you know when a new video loads. And thank you, Tobe Hooper, for adapting Stephen King's Salem's Lot into a movie or a miniseries.